So I'm excited that we're gonna do a full moon ceremony, Bodhisattva ceremony. We're getting ourselves so organized. Millions of emails between some of us. Is that, my hope is that we can do this quarterly. It's a beautiful ceremony, and we have the chairs in the room set up. I'll tell you more about it when we get closer to it, so that there's a lot of bowing in this. It's an ancient ceremony. There's a lot of full bows and choki, which is, I'll show you, being on your knees, which some of you may want to do at home, some of you may want to do here. If your bodies aren't happy with that, you can stay in your chair, of course. But before we do that, I wanted to I had said in the beginning that Thich Nhat Hanh was going to be one of our resources for the Eightfold Path, and then I got so enchanted by the commentaries by in the Eightfold Path book by the women teachers that I wanted to circle around and back to Thich Nhat Hanh to close today, and to make some kind of bridge about the Eightfold Path and the Bodhisattva vows and the precepts. So the first thing is, let's put up that screen share, and you all have, there's some of these scattered around the room, so you could look at them with your neighbors. This is from Thich Nhat Hanh. And what I wanted you to see and notice is that it's a circle. And that if you use your imagination, you could imagine it's a full moon circle. It's a circle. Right view, right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right diligence, right mindfulness, right concentration, and they're completely interconnected. You can't separate any one part of it out. You might imagine that it's like the moon. Sometimes it's waning, sometimes it's waxing, sometimes you see it, sometimes it just feels dark, sometimes it's full and illumined. Sort of like your mind, kind of like the world, kind of like life, huh? But the full moon is always here. So any one thing you pick up is the whole world. You can't, right speech is completely interconnected with right mindfulness and right view, and so that's why I wanted you to see this. Okay, so I'm just going to do just a little review from Thich Nhat Hanh. He says, the first practice of the Noble Eightfold Path is right view, samyak drishti. Right view, first of all, is a deep understanding of the Four Noble Truths. Our suffering, the making of our suffering, the fact that our suffering can be transformed, and the path of transformation. The Buddha said that right view is to have faith and confidence that transformation of our suffering is possible. Right view is solid in us when it is. We have right thinking, samyak samkalpapa. We need right view at the foundation of our thinking, and if we train ourselves in right thinking, our right view will improve. Everything is interconnected and interdependent. There is suffering. The cause of suffering is the identification with a me that feels separate and therefore has to defend in one way or another, or grab at what's out there. Backward step, right view, is full circle moon holographic, 360, but more the 10 directions above, below, and all around. It's the third pure precept. Always act with everyone in mind. Try to do no harm. Try to do good. Take refuge in Buddha, which is the Buddha in yourself and the Buddha in the whole world. Take refuge in Dharma, which is the formal teachings, but it's the Dharma of the world. The world is teaching us exactly what we need in each moment. It's alive. And taking refuge in Sangha. The Sangha inside yourself so that everybody is talking to each other in here, or maybe better yet, not talking to each other, just sitting quietly together. And in our relationships, our Sangha relationships, in the Sangha of the world, right view is always remembering. We are at the center of the whole world, and everything is the center of the whole world, so therefore it looks like that circle where everything is interconnected. When right view is solid in us, we have right thinking. Thinking is the speech of our mind. Right thinking makes our speech clear and beneficial. And because thinking often leads to action, right thinking is needed to take us down the path of right action. Right thinking reflects the way things are. You can't separate them out. Right mindfulness, which of course Thich Nhat Hanh brings forward early on, because that's the entry point of what the piece that he's picked up as the heart of his whole life. You could see that with Judith Regier, she made right effort. She came in through right effort. It doesn't matter. It's just devote yourself, and it's all there. Right mindfulness, Samyak Smriti, is at the heart of the Buddha's teachings. When we are mindful, our thinking is right thinking. Our speech is right speech, and so on. Right mindfulness is the energy that brings us back to the present moment, which is where everything is and isn't. Right diligence or right effort, Samyak Pradhama or right effort, is the kind of energy that helps us realize the Noble Eightfold Path. When we practice sitting and walking meditation in ways that cause our body and mind to suffer, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. Our effort is not right diligence and is not based on right view. Our practice should be intelligent, based on right understanding of the teaching. It is not because we practice hard that we can say that we are practicing right diligence. Rest, upright, present, right in the middle of everything. If you think your little eye is going to figure out and do this all by itself, you're going to get really exhausted and probably stop practicing because you'll just think it's dumb. It didn't work anyway. Doesn't work the way we think it works. The practice of right concentration, Samyak Samadhi, is to cultivate a mind that is one-pointed. The Chinese character for concentration means literally maintaining evenness. That's nice, isn't it? Neither too high nor too low, neither too excited nor too dull. Another Chinese term sometimes used for concentration means the abode of true mind. Right livelihood, how you make your living. But it is a collective matter. The livelihood of each person affects everyone else, and everything we do contributes to our effort to practice right livelihood. Okay, here's his summary. As we study and practice the Noble Eightfold Path, we see that each element of the path is contained within all the other 7 elements. We also see that each element of the path contains the noble truths of suffering, the making of suffering, and the ending of suffering. Practicing the first noble truth, we recognize our suffering and call it by its name. Depression, anxiety, fear, insecurity. And then we look directly into that suffering to discover its basis, and that is practicing the second noble truth. These two practices contain the first two elements of the Noble Eightfold Path, namely right view and right thinking. All of us, have a tendency to run away from suffering. Ah! It's too hard. It hurts. I don't like it. It's not supposed to be this way. But now with the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, right mindfulness and right concentration help us to look directly and courageously at our suffering. The looking deeply that shows us clearly the basis of our suffering is right view. Right view will not show one reason for suffering, but layers upon layers of causes and conditions, seeds we have inherited from our parents, grandparents, and ancestors, seeds in us that have been watered by our friends and the economic and political situations in our country, and so many causes and conditions. This is personal, and it is profoundly not personal. Sit in the center of it for the sake of the whole world, not to mention to alleviate your own suffering and to be happy. Because when you're happy, it helps somebody next to you be happy. Now the time has come to do something to lessen our suffering. We do this by practicing right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Remembering that right speech is also listening deeply. Really important. To practice these three aspects, we practice with mindfulness. It is not possible to practice one element of the Noble Eightfold Path without practicing all the 7 other elements. This is the nature of interbeing, and it is true for all of the teachings offered by the Buddha, which is a wonderful segue into Mahayana Buddhism, the heart of our tradition. What's passed to us is Zazen as the embodiment of this, the actual taste of this, the living of it. Zazen body, it is the embodiment of the Bodhisattva vows. If you think you're going to go out and save everybody, one, you probably wouldn't start because you'd think you could never do it. It's impossible. But it's not what you think. It's this beautiful full moon circle where each act, each thought, each moment connects and opens and turns every other moment. It's so beautiful. There is suffering. There is suffering. There is suffering. There's a cause. Suffering can be released. We can awaken in the midst of suffering, and we can live it. The Noble Eightfold Path, the Bodhisattva vows, and the precepts. The precepts are, in our tradition, what has been passed down to us. Precepts are given marriage ceremonies. Precepts are given lay ordination. Precepts are given today. Precepts are given priest ordination. Precepts are given when you die. It's like you want all and any of these, but you want a map, the precepts, forever. Because you're never going to figure it out or get it right. But it will help us show up over and over again in curiosity and not knowing and wonder and humility. Like, I don't know what to do. Do you know what to do? Read the newspaper? What do you do about the wonder of birdsong? I don't know. What do you do about sickness, aging, and death? To me, it makes me fall down on my knees. And that's what this ceremony really is about. So let me just walk us through it a little bit, and then we'll go to it and enact it. So the ceremony will begin.